All right, welcome in everybody. Pleased to be here. I'm Glenn Davis hosting a little precursor to the airing of the 99 US Open Cup final. This was the last time a non-Major League Soccer team has won the Open Cup. So that's a pretty important thing to talk about here. This was held in Columbus, Ohio. The Colorado Rapids taking on the Rochester Rhinos. The Rhinos would ultimately win this 2-0 to win the US Open Cup. So the four guys we got here, and we got some heavy hitters here, four guys that have done a lot in the game, not only as players, but now in their post-careers. Marcelo Balboa, the former U.S. international with the Rapids, N announcer. You've seen him covering Major League Soccer up and down, also does a lot of coaching. Scott Schweitzer, Rochester Rhinos. This guy played 1,000,001 games indoor and outdoor, 4 times was a USL All-Star. He's representing the Rhinos. We've got Pat Onstad, who was the goalkeeper on that day, had the shutout, the great saves with the Rochester Rhinos. And last but not least, Darren Sawatsky, who was a midfielder for the Colorado Rapids and played 4 years in Major League Soccer. First off, gentlemen, just hello to everybody, and I hope everybody's staying safe.
Good,
Thanks.
we're all good.
Thanks. Yep.
All right, so listen, you guys are the stars of this show, so we're going to get it rolling here. And what I want to do first is just get an initial comment from all of you about that day, what jumps out most to you. Make it a minute, minute and a half, and I'll start with you, Pat Onstad.
It was a good one. I actually remember, I think for us, it was leading into it, and Scott, I'm sure we'll talk about that, was that we felt it was destined to be a Columbus final. You know, we played them in the semifinal. We thought it was all kind of slanted towards us, and the final was in Columbus. So the fact that we got there, I think we wanted to make sure we were ready to go and make the most of an excellent opportunity. So it was pretty exciting for us.
Scott?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, if you look back at some of the articles and stuff, they called us a bunch of ragamuffins, kind of crazy guys. But, you know, we had a little bit of intelligence to us, too. And as you guys watch the game, you'll see, man, we don't get flustered. We know we're going to defend. We know we're going to defend. We know we're going to defend. And if you watch, you know, we don't get on each other. We make mistakes. I make a couple of really bad passes. To be honest, I think the only one who had a perfect game was Pat. He was amazing in goal. But we did some things that we just knew, we don't normally play a 4-1-4-1, but we did it. We played them against the MLS teams. I usually pushed up into the midfield. Craig Deming comes back with a hamstring. He probably shouldn't even been playing, but we just knew that this was the only way we had a chance to win. If we opened it up, it would have been trouble for us. I mean, Colorado was a great team, so we knew this is our way. We'll just defend, and we'll counter on their mistakes almost. Because we didn't really try to counter too much. We countered off of their mistakes, not necessarily anything we did special. It was just, we knew it was going to be 90 minutes, grind it out. And if it took longer than 90, then so be it.
Let's go to the Colorado Rapids. Marcelo, how about your initial thoughts on that 99 Open Cup final?
Well, listen, I don't think we ever thought they were ragamuffins or they were not good. We knew that they had their tactical plan. They knew how to play it, and they played it to perfection. And we knew that going into that game. Unfortunately, I think the arrogance of being an MLS team at that point, because we in the back of our head, a few of the players with Peter and myself were talking how we wanted to sit back. We wanted to sit back and counter against them because they were not used to having to open up. They were not used to having to come out and attack and expose themselves a little bit. And we were basically told, no, we are the MLS team. We're going to show our dominance on them. And they did everything we thought they would do to a perfection, alongside Senor Pat over here, who probably had the game of his life, because no matter what we shot at that goal, it wasn't going in. We could have played 120 minutes. We could have played 4 hours. I don't think we would have scored on him that day. That's how good he was. So it just, they were a better team that day. They stuck to their game plan. They fought, they scratched, and we tried to open up and play. And when we did that, that's when we got exposed.
Darren, let's get your thoughts on it.
Oh, it was frustrating. I mean, they frustrated the hell out of us. I remember Kevin Anderson having a header 5 minutes into the game on the back post, and I think Ross Pauly missed one just off the, Pat came out, closed him down, and he missed one to the back post, and we were creating chances like crazy, and we couldn't break them down. credit to them. I have to say that, since I got done playing, I've coached in the minor leagues a lot. I'm coaching in Richmond now, and I coached in the MASL with the Tacoma Stars. And I think one of the things is a lot of people don't think about it. There's a lot of really good soccer players playing in the very different leagues in our country, and it was the same then. That Rochester team was full of guys that could play in MLS no problem. Mari Elnett I played with in college. I mean, he could have slotted into any of the teams. Scotty and Pat obviously could have. I mean, they were a good soccer team, and they had a great swagger about them. It's you look at it, and other than being on the receiving end of losing the game, there's a lot of respect for that team, man. They could have easily been in MLS at that time.
We're talking to four guys who played in the 99 Open Cup final here, ultimately won by the Rochester Rhinos: Marcelo Balboa, Darren Sawatsky, Scott Schweitzer, and Pat Onstead. Pat, was it the Raging Rhinos at that time?
Yeah, I was going to correct you. It was the Raging Rhinos.
Okay, so
I take that personally when I don't hear people say Raging. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to
listen.
sure.
That was our team. I mean, it's funny when we had a chip on our shoulder, and it's interesting because I came down in '98 with this group, and I'm this little innocent Canadian guy, played in the Canadian Soccer League, bounced around a bit, and I walk in, there's Scott Schweitzer, Malai Walton, Tommy Tanner. These guys got these chips on their shoulders and very confident. For me, it was eye-opening, and I really enjoyed the ride. Like, these guys just we had a real big swagger about us, and we felt like we could play. I think Darren hit it on the head. We had some guys that, because they could play indoor, outdoor, and financially were making more than what MLS could offer. We did have probably 5 or 6 guys that were capable of making MLS squads and being a part of it. And, I think we had you don't see that very often now with USL teams. I think that we had a pretty good team.
Pat, what do you remember about the pregame speech from Pat Erkerly?
I don't remember Pat Erkerly. He probably just told us to go out and play our game, I guess. I mean, it's funny that Scotty's talking about, I actually have never seen the game since we played it. But when Scotty's talking about formations, and I do remember like that we changed it a little bit when we played the the MLS teams. But I don't remember the game, and I don't remember actually. It's funny when you guys are saying I had a good game. I remember one save. That's it. All Bravo. That's the only save I remember. I actually thought we did a really good job of controlling the match in front of us. Yes, we were under pressure, but I didn't feel like we were giving up chance after chance. And maybe when I watch the game, I'll have a different version of it. But I thought we were in control of the game. I thought we were very calm, like Scotty said. I think we had a group that really supported one another and believed in what we were doing. And that we also were a group that had learned how to win games. Didn't matter how we won them, whether we dominated a game in an A-League or whether we sat back and countered and got outplayed. We knew how to win games. So we always knew we had a chance, especially when we got up 1-0.
Scott Schweitzer, if you can't beat them, join them. You obviously were knocking off MLS teams on the way to this final. Confidence was not an issue.
Yeah, we didn't lack anything in confidence. I mean, Pat had come over, Darren Tilley, Lennon Steenkamp, who was injured, but we were playing for him that year because he got hurt against Charleston. Nicky Spooner gave him a scissor tackle, and this is probably the worst injury I've ever seen live or on TV. His knee kind of seized up and went into shock, and we couldn't move it. So we're playing the rest of the year for him. But like Pat said, we didn't care how we had to play. We weren't a team that's ever thought, oh no, we attack. We just wanted to win. Winning was like our main thing, and we didn't care how we had to do it. And to be honest, that was the beauty of the A-League at the time, was you're playing a Friday, Sunday weekend, and you're traveling on a bus the whole time. So like, okay, we're going to use all our energy up in the first game, and then the second game we're going to sit. And we could be the better team in the second game, but if we came out and tried to run, we would lose our legs in the first 45. Or we would go down to Charleston, and it's 100 degrees, and the humidity is so bad that we don't even play the first half. We're trying to get 0-0 at halftime, and then, okay, get our fluids in us, and in the second half, we'll run for the second 45. So, like, the A-League helped us because it was just such a hard league, whether it was travel or the teams. And everybody at the time's trying to get into the MLS. So it was like a war every game, which just was perfect for the Open Cup, because that's just what we knew. We were playing playoff games all year long, and our team It didn't matter MLS. I think one year we brought in Brescia from Italy. We didn't care who we were playing. We were going to win. However we had to do it. If that meant attacking and high pressing. And yes, what Pat said, Pat usually did the pregame talk the day before. The day of the game, that was left up to the players. We took care of it. We handled our business. We gave our pregame talk in the locker room. Guys knew. Guys didn't care if they came off the bench. Like in this game, Nate Dalagon's playing center mid, and he probably hadn't started almost the whole year. But through injuries and whatever, but no one ever complained. There's at the end, in the 48th, I think Demon gets hurt. You see him come over to the bench, and our bench is just like, we're not down. We're just like, thanks for the 48 minutes. They're all congratulating them and high-fiving them. That's just the kind of team we were, like, whatever it took to win. And I guess maybe 2000, I got a couple offers to go MLS. But for me personally, my style of play, Rochester was the place I was going to grow the most as a player. And that's all I ever cared about with the game. I didn't want to disrespect the game. It wasn't about money. It wasn't financial. It was where could I become the best version of myself? And the players at Rochester made me a better player.
Let's go to Marcelo. Marcelo, now obviously the big intro in '96 in Colorado. We were just reliving the opening game at Mile High a little while ago, a couple days ago, I think. And so first thing I would say to you is, you guys had gotten to an MLS Cup final at that point. I would say You're really serious about getting a piece of hardware, the first piece of hardware for the Rapids. So take me into that, and then take me into any pregame match comments before or instruction from Glenn Meyernick on if you can expand on what you said first.
Yeah, I think we tasted a little bit of success in '97. No one really gave us a chance. And to be able to beat the teams we beat, they really kind of looked down at us with the wrong kind of attitude. I remember reading some things about what Kansas City had up in their locker room, how they took a day off or two. So we already kind of felt, that underdog role. But going into this, I think if I remember correctly, it was kind of a nightmare to begin with. The semifinals were delayed because of rain and everything. They were talking about possibly going to penalty kicks and not playing the game. That's how much rain. I think it was Virginia Beach, right?
Yeah.
We have Virginia Beach. And so they postponed games here and there. We finally got the game in. And to be honest, we all thought it was kind of set up for Columbus to reach the final, because the final was in Columbus. Columbus were playing the Raging Rhinos. We're thinking we're on the other bracket. It's going to be two MLS teams. And when we come to find out that Columbus lost, we're like, okay, we knew this was a good team. We knew they had good players. But I think in the back of our minds, and I think even coaching staff, when we get to the final, and if I'm wrong, Darren can tell me, I think we all kind of backed off the pedal thinking, okay, we've already beat Seattle. We've already beat the Battery, USL teams. We thought, okay, this could be just that next step, just another game. You know what I mean? The attitude was wrong. Our attitude it dropped a little bit. And leading up to that, we kind of built it back up. And then we get there, and the speech wasn't really, I don't remember much of it, but knowing Mooch at the time and Renee, we got to do our job, and let's do it well. Let's show this team from USL that we are the MLS team. And I remember those words. So listen, we went out and we had confidence. We walked out. I felt we had control, like Pat thought they had. I thought we had control of the game. We had quite a few opportunities. Pat came up with some big saves. You'll see later, Pat. But, I thought that we had them pinned in pretty good, and we felt pretty confident. And the problem is we couldn't put it in the back of the net. And, if you can get one earlier, if you can get one in somewhere in that first half, now it makes the other team break out of what they were doing normally.
Let me stop you right there. You guys haven't given a goal up in the run-up to this final.
Yep.
Miller scores at the beginning of the second half. Did that rattle you?
It rattled us, because now we're thinking to ourselves, holy crap, we're losing to a team below us. We're losing to a team in the USL would be considered now the second division. So, we panicked a little bit, because we were never in that position. So you can see us start bombing forward. You got nothing to lose. You're going to lose 1-0. You're going to lose 2-0. We had to try to get back into this game. But listen, on that day, we met a wall. We met guys that were willing to play 120 minutes. And if they would have pulled a hamstring or torn an ACL, they would have stayed on the field and played. That's the heart and the desire, the passion they had that day. So, again, we could have gone 2 hours, and I don't think we would have scored because of the just the way they were committed. They were bought into their system. They knew what they were doing. They were good at what they were doing. We just couldn't break them down. And then, of course, we panicked with the 1-0 down. We started bombing forward. We started leaving spaces. There comes the second goal. They took advantage of the spaces, which they've done all year, and we knew it. But they did a nice job of taking advantage of those situations where we went bombing forward, and they put the second one in on us, and it was done.
Darren, did you see it like how Marcelo saw it?
Yeah, and I think there was a bigger piece to this. No disrespect to Rochester, because they won the game and they took it to us. But our team in MLS, I think we were 12-4 at the All-Star break. I think at the halfway point of the season, we were flying. We were the top team in MLS in terms of statistics and points. And Dida Valdez and Bravo were just hammering goals away. And we hit this point where they went cold together. Like, we were struggling in MLS. At least that's how I remember it. And we had won the semifinal 3-0. And I actually remember talking to Kevin Anderson after the game. Well, thank God we finally scored multiple goals in a game. It was the first time in like a month and a half. And when we didn't score in the first half after creating a bunch of chances, and then Dougie Miller comes on and does what Doug Miller does and scores this goal in the near post. It was like, oh man, it was like all of that feeling came back. Like, man, here we go again. We're gonna shoot 1,000 times and nothing's gonna go in, And then Bravo gets this chance to tie the game at 1-1, and it comes across the top of the 6. And I remember this. And Pat, you make this huge save, and it's like, I just remember thinking, that's it. Like, we're not going to score today. And, it was frustrating. I don't, that's the word I started with. It's
a crappy feeling.
Well, it's just no matter how hard you work, I remember creating a give and go with Dida Valdez where he cuts the ball back and I'm in the box and the ball just doesn't get there. And it's like, man, it was that day where the ball's not going to come, and you could feel that momentum, and when you're a player, it. And it's just, man, you want to kick your own butt.
Listen, after that, during that game, we're like, why the hell is this guy in MLS? Pat, we're thinking to myself, we can't put the ball past him. We're like, why is he playing here when he was better than some of the goalkeepers in MLS? That's when we left the game, we're like, holy crap, where did this guy come from? You know what I mean? So it was no disrespect to the rest of the players because they all had a job, but you know how it is. A forward always sticks out because he puts the ball in the back of the net. Goalkeeper makes 3 or 4 saves. You remember those. And that day, my man was on fire.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny though, like because you think, and I just knew our group was so resilient, like the way we played. So, and it was this is no disrespect to Colorado, but I would say this is how we were. We hardly did pre-scouts. So in terms of, I'm going before the game. I'm going, is Bravo right-footed or left-footed? That's our pre-scout. I mean, back in the day, there's not like it is now where every single move guys make and where they like to go. But for us, it was all about us. I mean, that's
I totally agree with Pat.
Yeah.
When you watch the game, you'll see there's never any over support. We trust each other to do each other's jobs so well. So I think for Pat not remembering how good he was, it could have been like, this is what I saved the ball. I saved it. Yeah. He plays defense. He makes them cross. Score. Like when you watch,
you guys will score. You guys will do it. Yeah.
We knew that
we watched you guys on VHS. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
We knew that up the middle was their strength. So, and when we normally play, we used to funnel things to the middle because the middle was our strength. Me, Craig Demon, Lennon, Yari, our strength was central. So we actually pinched wide to funnel things middle. But this game, we don't let anything come through the middle. That's why we went to the 4-1-4-1 and we sit. But at the same, you're watching the game like, I'm really the holding midfielder, but there's times where I'm the 10. And we just rotate and do this triangle, and it rotates and shifts as long as you're covering your gaps in your space. And we trusted each other to do it so well that you just see, like, I know Nate Alicon comes out, I think, the 76th minute, and I don't know who comes in, Kerms or Zavala. But you're talking about Jorge Silva played in the Mexican First Division. This guy's an amazing left footer, and not many people know about him. And he's so slick, and he gets the cross off at the end, and Vermes gets out of the way. But, like, we kept bringing in these, like, versatile players off the bench that didn't really change our game, but changed it just enough that it was a different look for a team to then have to. So, like, if we were losing, we were like, that's okay. Zavala will come in, and he'll take it down the line and just do his thing. So we like just trusted each other so much to do our own job. And we knew each other's jobs so well that we knew where and what was going to happen.
I'm going to take it back to you, Pat, real quick, because, you know, I know you're going to have to leave early. So I watched the game last night, you know, so that I could refresh myself to it. And I remember watching it back then in Columbus. And at halftime, there's an interview with the new MLS commissioner, Don Garber, who looks like, you know, he's about 25 years old, you know. So, you know, one of the underlying undertones here is that, you know, there was a real push for Rochester to be in Major League Soccer. Did you guys feel that going into this? Because the interview at halftime is interesting because Garber.
Listen, I don't think we thought about it. We knew the rumors. I mean, we even knew, we were talking about, we'd heard that they booked off dates for Tampa Bay and stuff like that. I don't know if that was in 98 or 99. Scotty, you can kind of remember that. But we were all, we had chips on our shoulder. We felt, some of us felt like we should have had a shot in the league or for whatever reason. But the one thing I would say that we talk about, and Scotty saying we knew each other. This is a group that had been together for 2 years, so it was built. This team was built. We'd already had a very successful season in '98. I don't know, we went like 24-4 or something like that, and kind of waltzed through the whole league, won a championship. So we had a team that, and all we did is add better players. Mauro Biello was a guy we haven't even spoken about. You know, we just upgraded everywhere. So we were a pretty stacked team and a team that had had a successful season. I think we're in the semifinal or just had qualified for the final already of the USL, you know, championship too. So it didn't surprise me that we got there, but you never knew who you're going to play. I mean, we played 3 other MLS teams and every game was difficult. So I think we knew going into it was going to be hard. And like Cello was talking about, sometimes I've been on the other end too now, being in MLS. You play the USL team, maybe you go 95%. You think, you know, listen, we can get by. If we play our game, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And you're right. Maybe some guy has a good game on the other team, or they score a one-off goal. And for us, for me, and Scotty's touched on a lot, it was just a group that I think was so unified that it didn't matter how we won. We just knew we were going to try to figure out a way to win the game.
All right. So you guys blew through Chicago, Dallas, Columbus to get to the final. Was there any of those games that in your mind really might have swayed it, saying, oh, we're going to win this thing, or we can win this thing? Or was it just business as usual each game?
I don't think I think Chicago, they had John Ball was on the team. So I went to lunch with him and he was like, who's going to do this? Who's going to stop Razov? Who's going to, we were like, who cares? Who's going to stop us? But, and then the Dallas game, Dirk, he gave us locker room material. He's the one that called us all a bunch of Dennis Rodmans, you know. And then I saw him after the game. I was like, Dennis Rodman, you should have picked a better player. And what's he got, 5 championships? But we never thought of it as we're going to win this. It was like, what's the next game? What's the next game? It was always about, like Pat was saying, in 98, Rochester hit a perfect storm. In 98, Greensboro decided not to play in the A-League anymore. Pat was a free agent in Toronto. Tilly was a free agent in Toronto. And Rochester went out and got me, Yari Allnut, Pat Onstead, Darren Tilly, Tim Hardy. And then the next year, 99, Montreal decided to sit out a year. And we went and got Biello and Sedgwick. It was just 2 years of a perfect storm. We just went out and got the best available players to come to Rochester. And Rochester had been good since 96. But when all these players came together, and a lot of us, Pat and Darren came, they knew each other. Billy and Morrow came, they knew each other. I played in Cleveland, so I knew Tommy Tanner. Like, we all kind of had connections already on the team. And then when we got there, Rochester's one of the only teams we never didn't give 100% because practice was so hard. I mean, I don't like soccer tennis, so we would show up and Pat would give us a day off, and I would be like, what? I didn't come for a day off. I didn't come for a day off. I came to play. Or it'd be like 95 degrees in Rochester. Pat was like, oh, we got to get out of the sun. We're like, what are you talking about? Let's go about. And we just wanted to play every day. We wanted to play against each other, compete against each other. I always tried to get against Malai because Malai's one of the best one-on-one defenders. I just wanted to dribble him. If it was a heading drill, which I'm not great at heading, I would be like, I want to mark Lennon. Like, we were always competing against each other. So games were they were easier compared to practice. It was just the team. It was just a special team.
Darren, how about you? What are some of the other things that really jumped out to you about that day outside of what you've already said?
Well, I've said this to a couple of people. I can't remember if it was Yari or somebody else, but they stuck their elbow through the back of my head in the first like 3 minutes, which was very much a Rochester thing too. I have no issue with it, man. Physical play is physical play, but I was a bit of a tinker toy in terms of my body size. Thank goodness for the Oreos now because I'm starting to get thicker. But
Yeah,
back
but
then,
Darren, I saw you run through a few guys in your day, so all's
well, I
fair in
couldn't
love
pass
and
the ball very well, so I had to run hard and hit people. The reality is, this is the truth. I watched part of this game last night, Pat, just because I don't remember the game. I remember getting there, and I remember the Rochester fans. I remember warming up, and I got popped in the back of the head. And I think it was my buddy Yar that popped me. And I don't remember a lot of the game because of it. Nowadays, I'd be on concussion protocol for 3 months and all that stuff, which is probably right because I can't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday. But I don't remember a lot of that stuff. And watching the game, I just, again, I would say it like this. Rochester epitomized a different pathway to getting to a high level of football. And working in the academy system for a long time, I worked in Seattle. I ran the academy there. And one of the things that we really struggled with was these players were entitled and anointed. And, once you give them a pair of $200 shoes, they don't work hard. And I watched this thing today on social media with Van Persie talking about his kid, all this stuff. And I thought it was awesome because every guy on that Rochester team, and you two can correct me or not only did they have a chip on their shoulders, but they didn't all come up through the ODP system of all that. They all had chips because they were like, we're going to make it come hell or high water. And I think some of that's missing in the academy and player development systems. Like a lot of these players, they don't have to struggle through some things. I think some of us maybe in the team that was that we played against them, and I don't know this completely, but some guys had easier paths. These guys were going to fight you in a dark alley no matter what, and you had to knuckle up. And I think that's something that's missing. I think you have to create environments where these kids have to go through that. So, I have to be honest, Scott, Pat, this sucks. I don't want to talk about this game.
Yeah, I'm surprised you guys came on.
I've been a part of finals in a lot of ways. I've been really, really lucky as a player and as a coach. And I don't want to talk about this one. And I don't want to talk about the 04 final I lost with Seattle against Montreal because I lost the game. They suck. But all respect to you guys. I mean, what a great team that was.
If it's any consolation, we lost like a week later in the 99 final. And that, I'm telling you, that was worse. As much as I loved winning the 99, losing 10 days later pissed me off more than anything.
No consolation, Pat. No, none, zero. It still sucks, buddy.
Amos McGee right now is jumping up and down and pointing to the back of his jersey or whatever it is. Hey guys, I gotta go, but listen, this is great. I miss this. Scotty, it's great seeing you again. I haven't seen you forever.
All the best.
Yeah, guys, be good. Thank you.
Pat.
Thanks, guys.
All right, it's Pat Onstad who was in goal that day and got the shutout. Marcelo, how about you? Any other good additives you can put to that day? And you know what, guys, even think of some funny anecdotes, because I'm sure there was a few funny things that happened as well.
Listen, I think that what Darren talked about is a completely different subject of academy kids and entitlement. When you grow up in a family where you don't have much, there's only one way out, and that way is through soccer. And that soccer, you'll do anything and everything to get to that pathway. And we didn't have much as a kid. My dad worked his butt off to give us anything and everything. And we'd get a pair of shoes, and my dad would be like, okay, that's your pair of shoes. You have to clean it. They've got to last. That's not, you're getting another pair of shoes in a month. So I think the hunger we had back then of desperately make it. If I don't make it, what do I do? You know what I mean? It was that kind of, and that's what I felt like when we played Rochester. It was that group of kids from El Barrio, from the neighborhood, that we're going to make it no matter what. This is what we want to do. This is what we're going to strive for. And they went out and did it. You know what I mean? So, but besides that, I don't think there was anything, I got to be honest, Glenn, I don't think there was anything funny leading into that, because in any anecdote we talked about, we had practice. We were more relaxed because we reached the final. We already beat a few teams. But, I don't mind talking about these games because you learn so much sometimes from losing instead of winning all the time. And what we learned that day was probably one of the big, and I've lost finals before and I've won finals before, and with the Nomads and the Blackhawks and all those guys, with the Colorado Foxes, I won 2 championships. But it wasn't about the physicality. It wasn't about Darren getting nailed in the back of the head. It wasn't about them having scrappy players. They wanted it more than us. They wanted it more than us that day. And when a team wants it that bad, compared to another team who feels that we deserve to win it because we're the MLS team, you're in trouble. And we were in trouble. We were in trouble because we didn't know how. You can't switch. There's no switch that takes you from a relaxed mood to a competitive mood. If you're that good, you weren't playing that day with us. You know what I mean? And even Messi's not like that, or Ronaldo's not like that. So I think the mentality side of soccer and how you approach a game, it can't drop from one game to another, from a final to a first-round game. It's got to be consistently. My coach told me a long time ago, you can't play here every game and you can't play here. You've got to play here, a little up, a little down. You've got to stay consistent every game. That's what's going to make you a better player. That day, we came here, mentality-wise, and that's what killed us that day. And all credit to that whole group, because learned so much from those guys, learned so much of how they came into that game, how they were prepared for that game. And again, listen, the arrogance of being an MLS team at that point, to come in and say, we're going to win already, we've got this is our game, and that was the end of that. So I'm sure Peter Vermes would probably have a few different things to say because we were roommates, and we all know Peter. I think Peter was the same way. We were rooming, and it was a rough night. It was a rough night. It's tough to swallow, but you learned a lot from it.
So one thing that really is very cool, looking at you guys now and Pat when he was here, we can honestly say that what's going on now came off the backs of a lot of what you guys were doing at this time period in the game, right? Struggling to make a living, trying to play in 2 leagues. Yeah. I did the same thing in the 80s. So that's why this is a real honor to be with you guys. Yeah. I just want to take you all into this, and just feel free to pipe in, and we got about a couple minutes left here. I get Doug Miller comes off the bench. He makes Eric Lee look like a genius. He scores a couple minutes in. Debatable if it was savable or not. It looked savable to me watching it last night. Just take me into how much that guy changed that game, and how much you felt the game changing, if at all, when he came in the game. And we'll start with you, Darren.
Well, I didn't know who Doug Miller was at that time, but I'll give you another a funny thing. Like I told you, the last few years, I was still making a living doing different things. I was running a PDL team and then running an MASL team in the wintertime. And Rochester's come back into the indoor soccer leagues, and Doug Miller has injected himself into games in the last 2 years. I mean, he's 87 years old and he's still scoring goals. I mean, all I would say is the guy has scored everywhere he's ever gone. And as soon as you inject a guy like that into a game, I mean, the game, we were creating chances and things were going in. When you inject a guy like that into a game, you have to account for him, and we didn't. He got his look, he finished it off, and it was a game changer. Scored a goal. The rest of us couldn't.
Scott?
Well, you got to remember, as I watched the game too, I didn't realize Craig Deming got hurt in the 48th, but for me, my first 5 minutes when I go back to center back, I'm still playing like a center midfield. So that would have been Colorado's chance to get a squeak a goal or find a mistake, because I'm pushed too high. And then I'm like, oh, okay. But we had Darren Tilley, and as you're watching the game the first half, he's kicking everybody. We're playing balls up there, 50-50 balls. We don't even care if he gets it. We just want him to hammer guys. And he's not the same as Doug. He doesn't have the pace. So when Dougie gets subbed in, you've been playing 65 minutes, Marcelo and Peter, marking this other player who's a completely different style. So Dougie, who's a lot faster and a lot quicker, and he gets his shot off a lot quicker, if you don't catch it early, which they didn't, that's what happened. He got his goal. It does look savable, but it does get deflected. It gets deflected and it throws the goalie off. So, but he's just a different type of player. And that's one of the things we knew. When Kermsey comes in, he's pretty much coming in just to hold down the right side. He's not really looking to attack. When Zavala comes in, we're looking to play out through Zavala. So, the players that come in, they know their role, but they're also just a little bit different. So if you don't pick it up quick enough, we knew that was our chance to take advantage of players.
Marcelo?
Yeah, listen, that goal, I think, surprised Peter because Miller pulled off him really quick. When you're 6'7", and you're covering the near post, there's only one place to go, and you're going to go low. Because Ian Foyer was 6'7", 6'8", and if you go anywhere near his hips or near, he's going to make that save. Where does he go? Near post, low, where we weren't expecting that shot. No one was. And I think it even caught Foyer off guard. So when he came into the game, you know, you're used to, at the level that me and Peter have played already at that point, we've already played in a few World Cups. You have guys that come in and can change a game for you. I don't think that was it. The fact that I think that our mentality was, okay, just be patient. It's coming. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. And then this guy peels off Peter, and all of a sudden there was a 5-yard gap between Peter and Miller, and you're like, oh, crap, where did this guy come from? You know what I mean? Then he buries it, and we're like, okay, now we just got slapped in the face because now reality said, now we're down 1-0. But we didn't know much about – we knew the style, but the players individually, we knew Yarial, and we knew a few guys. But there was a few guys we didn't know, and he was one of the guys we didn't know much about. And when he turned and knocked it in, it was, again, it was reality. Was it savable? You know what? I would hate to blame Ian Foyer for anything because, you know what, if we would have marked better, if we would have covered better before the ball got crossed into the box and we would have marked Miller, we wouldn't even be talking about Ian Foyer having to make that save. So, again, little breakdowns. One breakdown here makes this guy show up a little later on his cover. That means the next guy's late. And that's what happened. It was a sequence of events where we were late every step of the way. By the time the ball got crossed, we were already late in shifting over and covering, and he put it in the back of the net. So there wasn't really was it savable? Was it not? Sure. Should we have done a better job of marking and not allowing the ball to get to a guy who was open in the box because we didn't shift over enough? Sure. So goals are made off mistakes and good plays. They had a good play. We didn't shift over quick enough. And next thing you know, we're watching a team defend like crazy, and you see another team trying to attack with 12 guys.
That goal came in the 66th minute from Miller, a couple minutes after he came off the bench from Sedgwick. 70th minute, Pat Onstad makes a huge save on Paul Bravo, which could have brought you guys back in the game. And then the 90th minute, Yari Alnut scored, who also scored during the run-up into the final. I guess the 30 minutes is up, guys. You guys were awesome. And I got to give the color, Scott, and Pat's not here. We do got to give the Rapids guys tremendous credit for coming in here. It's not easy being the guys talking about it when you didn't win the cup, right? So yeah, for today, Scott, we're going to make you the king, all right?
Nice.
Darren, thank you. Scott, thank you. Marcelo, as always, it's always a pleasure. You guys, please stay safe. I'm just going to wrap it up again here. We were visiting with Pat Onstad, Scott Schweitzer, Darren Sawatsky, Marcelo Balboa, the U.S. International. We were recapping the 99 Rochester Rhino 2-0 win over the Colorado Rapids for the Open Cup. And again, this is the last time that a non-MLS team has won the Open Cup. Pretty incredible stuff, that occurring at Cruz Stadium. So hope this is a great precursor to watching the match now live. All right, guys, we'll see you later.
Hey, I don't want Pat to be mad. Raging Rhinos.
Raging Rhinos. Yes. Sorry about that, Scott.
Take care, guys. Scott, nice to see you.
Take care of yourselves, guys.
Yeah, take care.
For the Colorado Rapids, 1999 has been a year for pointing the way in the U.S. Open Cup. With ruthless efficiency, the Rapids have swept aside the opposition in this national knockout competition. Showing a flair for the dramatic, the upstart Rochester Raging Rhinos have carried the standard of second division soccer with aplomb. Now the underdogs are just 90 minutes away from their greatest triumph. It's David versus Goliath, or if you prefer, Rochester against Colorado in the U.S. Open Cup final. And it's just a beautiful night for soccer here in Columbus, Ohio. The Rochester Raging Rhinos against the Colorado Rapids in the 1999 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Final. Be assured we will be keeping tabs on the Sammy Sosa home run chase. The Rapids coming off a 0-0 draw with the Kansas City Wizards in Major League Soccer on Friday. They won that game on the shootouts. No MLS-style shootouts tonight. We might have a penalty shootout. Before that, we'll have extra time if they're even after 90 minutes. And we're underway. The Rhinos, as you saw, in yellow, with the black shorts, their lucky strips for the U.S. Open Cup at any rate. And they are attacking the goal to our right in the first half here in Columbus. Will be interesting to see whether the Rhinos opt for a conservative approach right at the start here.
Change your foot.
David Vaudreuil, the dodgy ball, and handball against Darren Tilley, the big Englishman. You mentioned him at the start time.
Well, he's the lone forward, the lone ranger up front for Rochester. They're playing a 4-5-1, trying to clog the center, trying to clog the midfield, and look for counterattack if they can win the ball at midfield, like right here.
Here's Tilley. Only managed 5 goals in the A-League campaign, but a constant menace up front. Ian Foyer has custody of the ball. This portion of the game is brought to you by Chevy. David Vaudreuil knows a thing or two about winning a U.S. Open Cup medal, having emerged victorious with DC United in 1996 when they beat, you guessed it, the Rhinos.
Well, that was the year DC United won the double. They won both MLS, the MLS Cup Final, as well as the U.S. Open Cup Final. Glenn Mooch-Barnick would like to perform that feat this year in '99 with the Colorado Rapids, win the U.S. Open Cup here and go on to take the MLS Cup Final. But also winning the double in '98, the Chicago Fire as MLS champions and U.S. Open Cup champions.
Tim Hardy on the left, goal-scoring hero in the semifinal against the Columbus Crew, but embarking by Darren Sawatsky. Surprise inclusion in the Rapids starting 11. Sawatsky wearing number 16. There's Hardy. What a screamer of a goal it was for the Rhinos.
And from a defender, no less.
3-2 win over Columbus. Jorge Deli Valdez, the Panamanian. The Rapids are the favorites. Ross Pauley in midfield. Here's Kevin Anderson. Played for the Minnesota Thunder against the Rhinos last year in the A-League final. Offside flag is up against Deli Valdez.
But we saw a little bit how Colorado operates in midfield there. Ross Pauley, the playmaker. It was Matt McCune, the ball winner, who immediately won it, got it to Ross Pauley to switch it to the opposite side.
Tim Wayland in charge tonight. He's on the FIFA list. Hails from Berkeley, California. Supposed to have taken charge of the controversial Revolution Fusion MLS game this past weekend, but was a late scratch. Ricardo Valenzuela officiated instead. Now then, it's a good ball by Bravo. Deli Valdez. Bit of width from Anderson, and Deli Valdez. Craig Dammit to the rescue. And his experience, Ty, will be vital back there for Rochester.
Craig Dammit, very strong, very powerful. Missed 8 games because of a hamstring injury. He's been brought back in because of the high stakes in this game. And the setup is Scott Schweitzer, who had been playing as a central defender, moved then into defensive midfield. And we saw it right there, how they converged on Deli Valdez, leaving no space for a shot.
This portion of the game brought to you by Budweiser. Greg Demon and Malai Walton teaming up at the back for the Rochester Raging Rhinos. Nate Dalacon failing in his bid to keep it in. Vaudreuil with the throw for Bravo. Began his MLS career with the San Jose Clash. Just spent the 1 season there. Matt McEwen. Defensive midfield anchor. There's Peter Vermees. Converted striker, of course. Offside flag up again. 0-0, 4 minutes on the clock. It's the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Final. If you've joined us late here on ESPN, the Rhinos in yellow, Colorado Rapids in the white shirts. There you see the draw from the quarterfinals on. That's when the MLS teams became a factor. And it really was a difficult route for Rochester, Ty.
Well, if you're able to beat teams like the Chicago Fire, the Dallas Burn, and the Columbus Crew, and obviously you're a quality team, and the Rochester Rhinos know that they've received a lot of recognition for beating those teams, but people will forget down the years unless they're able to complete this and beat a 4th MLS team to take the full prize here, the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup.
Came off Balboa. This is Pauley, one of the most promising young players in Major League Soccer. Vermees, first American to play in the Hungarian First Division, 1989 with Raba Etokur. Here's Hardy, 26 years of age, from Detroit. Switching it to Walton. Walton came to the attention of the Rhinos when he played against them for the Mid-Michigan Bucks back in the 1997 U.S. Open Cup. And quite an impression. Balboa. Here's Vaudreuil. Acquired from the Miami Fusion. Colorado Rapids just trying to draw out the Rhinos here. Deli Valdez trying to get away from Andrew Restrepo. What a good run by Deli Valdez. Safe clutch in the end for Pat Onstad, the Canadian, in goal for the Rhinos. He's attracted the attention of Dundee United of the Scottish Premier League. The manager Paul Sturrock has been monitoring his progress.
Well, the Rochester goalkeeper Pat Onstad, in fact, shut out Jamaica on September 2nd, playing goal for the Canadian national team in Toronto. So he not only plays for the Rhinos, he plays internationally for Canada.
So Peter Vermees took a knock to the face. There's Onstad from Vancouver, British Columbia. 10 shutouts in 21 games in the A-League this season. Not bad going.
He'll be up against some pressure. We saw already the explosiveness of Deli Valdez on his run through midfield a moment ago.
Mauro Biello, like Onstad, from Canada. Spent the bulk of his career on the fringes of the Canadian national team. Jari Aldots, the main playmaker, wearing the captain's armband for the Rochester Raging Rhinos. His shadow was Sawatsky.
And Peter Vermees, the captain for the Colorado Rapids. Somebody was asking me, hey, Vermees is still in there. He's still playing. And he's getting up there. I said, well, you know what? He did the wise thing. He's been progressively moving further and further back in the team. He was a striker with the U.S. national team in the early 90s. Then he became a defensive midfielder. Now he's a central defender alongside Marcelo Balboa.
Schweitzer with a free kick and Foyer. Oh, he saw it late. Aldot was following up. Ian Foyer knows a thing or two about giant killing. We'll get back to that in just a moment.
Foyer normally dominant in the box with his huge frame, barely winning the race to that bouncing ball in the box, as Jari Aldots, using his speed and anticipation, nearly got on the end of it.
Foyer played for Rushden and Diamonds, a non-league team in England this past season. They held the mighty Leeds United to a 0-0 draw in the third round of the FA Cup. Went to a replay and they lost 3-1. But that is the magic of the cup, especially in England, but also here in the U.S. Here's Kevin Anderson. Now Vaudreuil. Little flick by Bravo, playing as a striker tonight with Wally Harris on the bench. Pauly trying to use Tim Martin. Right fullback, here's McEwen. Pauly again. Charged down by Biello. He's a busy little player in midfield. Has excellent technical skill. Combative play by Pauly.
Oh, Ross Pauly doing some ball winning of his own on the far side for the Rapids. But a good run there by Biello. He nearly got in behind, and it was only Ross Pauly tracking back that stopped him from turning the corner.
Comes to McEwen for the Colorado Rapids. They're attacking the goal to our left. And Pauly trying to spring Sawatsky, who has excellent pace. Oh, a miss kick. Complete fresh air shot by Sawatsky. Restrepo and Hardy trying to combine, but Bravo's in there. Paul Bravo! High header by Nate Delicon, and that was crucial. Back they come again. Tim Martin in a good position. And Kevin Anderson! Well, that's the best chance of the game so far. Anderson after the Tim Martin cross from the right.
But earlier we had a great chance on a cross from Paul Bravo. This time an in-swinger. Kevin Anderson able to get a lot of power on it. He misses that near post. And Onstad appeared to have it completely covered.
Now you see the numbers for Kevin Anderson in U.S. Open Cup play. Was thought of as a bits and pieces player, utility man, when he was acquired from the Minnesota Thunder. It's been more than that. I think it goes to Vermees and the Rapids. Deli Valdez. There's Anderson. Good intervention by Walton. Aldots. Sawatsky trying to close him down. Those two were teammates with the New England Revolution for a few weeks back in 1996 before a ball was kicked in anger in Major League Soccer. Aldots waved before the start of the season. It's come a long way since then, though. Tim Hardy. Good play under heavy pressure. Now McEwen gets it back. And Onat. Wilson on the right. Excellent ball. Telecom for the Rochester Raging Rhinos. And he put Balboa to the test.
Well, Marcelo Balboa and the Colorado Rapids trained very intensely yesterday on this game field in preparation. On the other hand, the Rochester Rhinos were pretty casual in their approach. They're kind of very glad to be here. Not as much pressure on them. Colorado here to protect the reputation of MLS.
Long throw by Walton. Balboa acquitted himself well. Second crack of the whip for Walton. And too much height on the cross. The tradition of championship bouts and top-rated challengers continues on Friday Night Fights, presented by Budweiser. Great fights and all the latest boxing news comes your way this Friday, September 17th at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. That's on ESPN2. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, Go.com. Biello, closed down by Pauly.
Biello with the Dimitro Albertini hairstyle in central midfield. The great AC Milan and Italian national team midfielder Albertini. There's some similarities between him and Biello.
Yes, there is a touch of the Albertini about Mauro Biello. There's a lot of flair. One of two playmakers ostensibly for the Rhinos tonight. Onat is the other. Long throw by Hardy. We'll get a second bite of the cherry here with 12 minutes on the clock. 0-0. Rochester and Colorado, the A-League against MLS. And the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Final for 1999. This tournament dates all the way back to 1914. Sedgwick this time. Bill Sedgwick with the throw. Balboa's header finding Bravo. Chiseling away at Restrepo. And he's another former Major League Soccer player. Began the 96 season with the Metro Stars.
All right, Paul Bravo there getting a little bit of space because so much attention is being paid to Jorge Valdez by the Rochester Rhinos defender. And Bravo, he's a grafter. He's not that flashy of a player, but an underrated skill in this game, Derek. We saw a moment ago, Paul Bravo, when Colorado had lost possession deep in the Rochester end, he immediately won possession back and nearly set up a great goal-scoring chance.
Biello forced into reverse. And a wasted ball in the end. Colorado Rapids going for their first major honor. Rochester Raging Rhinos know a lot about honors at A-League level. Let's send it down to Kevin Flynn on the pitch. Kevin?
Well, the Colorado head coach, Mooch Myernick, keeps yelling pressure, pressure. He thinks that they'll cough it up in their own defensive end and give up a goal. They want to go up ahead early. Guys?
Well, Glenn Myernick and the Colorado Rapids nearly won an MLS Cup final in '97, falling to DC United at RFK Stadium in DC. But their practice yesterday run like a taskmaster, really, by Glenn Myernick on this field. His emphasis was, in fact, forcing turnovers deep in the other end and never losing the ball at midfield, only losing it up front.
There's Bravo after a giveaway by Biello. And they can ill afford that, the Rochester Raging Rhinos. Biello was the culprit. Bravo trying to be the recipient of what was, quite frankly, a gift. It's the one goal in the U.S. Open Cup this season for Paul Bravo.
31 years of age, out of the San Jose, California area. In fact, played at the University of Santa Clara with Jeff Beitcher, where they were the Killer Bees for that '89 NCAA co-championship Santa Clara team, coached by Steve Sampson.
Beitcher now with the New England Revolution. There's Pauly. And Sawatsky, very aggressive, combative player. Balboa. And Vermees. Little flick by Deli Valdez, didn't pay off. Sawatsky. Scott Schweitzer just sitting in front of the back four for Rochester tonight.
In fact, the last 8 games, when Demon was out with a hamstring injury, Schweitzer was a central defender. So in effect, right now, Rochester is playing with 3 central defenders. Restrepo and Demon right at the back, and Schweitzer right in front of them. And that is really to contain the quickness and explosiveness of Jorge Deli Valdez.
Almost 15 minutes on the clock here. Rochester 0, Colorado 0. A couple of early opportunities afforded Paul Bravo. Should point out, of course, that the clock is counting up tonight, unlike Major League Soccer. International standard as far as the clock is concerned.
And a few other things, particularly if we would have a tie results at the end of regulation.
Layoff by Tilly. Schweitzer. Balboa mopping up. Finally appeared to be fouled by Tilly, yes.
Well, Darren Tilly even having to come back into midfield and do some defensive work, as you see, a very conservative, final type approach to this game by the Rochester Rhinos, and really just pulled Ross Pauly at the hip to keep him off balance.
Looked like a hand by Bravo. There's Onstad. High clearance into the night sky, and a gorgeous night it is. Beautiful weather earlier in the day here in Columbus. Pitch is in immaculate condition. And a bumping and barging. Demon and Deli Valdez. Back it comes to Peter Vermees. Kicked out of play by Balboa because Deli Valdez is down. Reminder to join us for baseball tonight at 10:30 Eastern and midnight Eastern. Mets looking to tie the Braves. How about Houston? Can they make it 12 in a row? The Red Sox looking to get the job done against the A's. And of course, we'll monitor the Sammy Sosa home run chase. That's baseball tonight with Bill Pito coming up at 10:30 Eastern and midnight Eastern.
Well, the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars made it 12 losses in a row and finally snapped that streak. Heavy collision here. Demon stepping in, using his forearm, the big number 3 there, crashing through. Deli Valdez will shake this off, but it's part of the approach of Rochester to rough up Deli Valdez just a little bit, make sure that he doesn't have the space to create havoc.
He's the top goal scorer in the U.S. Open Cup for the Colorado Rapids. 3 of the 5 goals they've scored.
He's also tied in MLS for first in game-winning goals with the Chicago Fire's Ante Raza. 6 game winners out of his 9 goals. He scores when they count, doesn't he?
Key figure for Glenn Myernick. There's his assistant by his side, Rene Miramontes. This portion of the match is brought to you by Allstate. Hope you're enjoying our coverage of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Final. Derek Ray, Ty Keogh, Kevin Flynn coming to you from Columbus. David Vaudrell for the Colorado Rapids. Bravo's head flick and Sawatsky to his right. Sedgwick. This is Allnutt. Sedgwick essentially a defensive force in midfield, former Montreal Impact player. The Impact not in business this year. They hope to return in the year 2000. Demon been battling that hamstring injury for many a week now. Delicon going up for the head challenge. There's Pauly riding the challenges. And Sawatsky available to his right.
Well, again, Scott Schweitzer, though, doing a very good job of screening out in front of the Rochester back 4, making sure there's no penetrating runs out of Sawatsky or Ross Pauly.
Matt McEwen loves to work up a full head of steam and trying the drive here. Slipping wide of the target.
Well, they call him the train. And look out, clear the tracks when Matt McEwen decides to go to goal. He saw some space. Things opened up. Demon challenged at the last moment. The ball hooking just wide. Again, though, Pat Onstad in goal for Rochester. Well positioned. And I believe would have had it been on target.
You know a thing or two about Matt McEwen, Ty Keogh.
Well, not only that, his brother Bill McEwen, who was a teammate of mine with the 1980 U.S. Olympic squad, is here in the stands. We got to chat ever so quickly just before the match.
Vermees to Balboa. Cautious start here by Rochester. Not a big surprise. It's putting the shutters up in the early going. Bravo. That was an intelligent ball. David Vaudrell. Oh, leaving Delicon for dead. Onstad again showing a same pair of hands. Vaudrell, the man who played it in. So much of this evening has to do with Lamar Hunt, the man who put up the money for this magnificent stadium here in downtown Columbus. Columbus Crew Stadium, it opened just a couple of months into the MLS season. We're hearing from Lamar Hunt in just a moment, and of course the cup renamed the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup for 1999 in honor of one of the true pioneers of American soccer, Biello. Tilly. Big target type forwards, and Foyer watches it all the way.
Ian Foyer, 5 shutouts this season in MLS action after taking over for Marcus Hahnemann, who moved to Fulham in England. Although not much action seen yet by Hahnemann over there. Hahnemann's still atop many of the MLS goalkeeping categories, even though he's left.
This portion of the game is brought to you by Very Fine. Schweitzer. This is Hardy. Played indoors during the winter in Buffalo for the Blizzards. Sawatsky. Now they might be onto something. Bravo and Deli Valdez. Still Deli Valdez. And the deflection was what saved Rochester. You can ill afford to give Deli Valdez space like that.
Well, another good attacking chance by the Colorado Rapids. And Deli Valdez has that quickness off the mark, a tremendous balance and presence of mind. He got the shot off despite some heavy marking. It was blocked at the last possible moment by, I believe, Craig Demon.
This is the first Rapids corner kick. 22 minutes into the match. It's Pauly with it. And it's Demon's header. And it's Anderson's drive. And it's way over the top. We mentioned that Lamar Hunt is a big part of the story tonight. With more on that, here's Kevin Flynn.
All right, I'm with the man who the cup is named after, Lamar Hunt. Congratulations, first of all.
Thanks. I'm very flattered at the honor.
Now you've been involved with professional soccer for many years. It must be great to see the labor of your love here, the stadium and U.S. soccer taking hold here.
Well, it is, and although the crowd tonight is small, the attendance for the Columbus Crew home games has been remarkable throughout the summer. They've averaged over 15,000 a home game, actually up about 17,000 a game. And tonight, unfortunately, the Crew missed their cue and didn't make it to the final. So, but we're, salute the 2 teams that are here.
It's a beautiful stadium. A lot of people talk about the stadium as being the prototype for the rest of the country.
Well, I think it will be, and I hope that other cities are going to develop this kind of facility. I think it's important to have the right size, the right sight lines, obviously the right kind of field surface. So we hope it'll come in other cities.
All right, great. Thank you, Lamar. Back to you guys.
Kevin Flynn with Lamar Hunt. Owns and operates 2 franchises in Major League Soccer. Columbus Crew and the Kansas City Wizards.
What was incredible about the construction of this stadium for the Columbus Crew was that it was done in 9 months and 1 day, and that's a tribute to Lamar Hunt and his sticking to his word that he would have a stadium for his team here that they could call their own.
Deli Valdez, man from Panama. Twin brother Julio Cesar Deli Valdez plays in Spain for Oviedo. Chested down by Tilly. Balboa. David Vaudril. Looking for the pass just over the shoulder of Bravo. It's very often where he likes it. And over the byline. Goal kick to the Rochester Raging Rhinos. Pat Onstad retrieving the ball. The Rapids dominating the early exchanges here. Rochester concentrating on defense, but no goals. We're going to get a baseball update now with the Sammy Sosa home run chase in mind. Here's Bill Pito. Thank you very much, Bill Pito. We're here in Columbus for the 1999 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Final. Rochester against Colorado. Derek Ray, Ty Keogh, Kevin Flynn. Vermees taking the fall. And that's the aggressive side of Darren Tilley. Hope you're enjoying our continuing coverage here from Columbus. He is a handful, isn't he, Tilley?
He's a monster. We saw him at practice yesterday. 6'3", 188, and he plays even bigger, very broad shoulders. You saw him there, his upper body strength, knocking Peter Vermees to the ground.
Fans enjoying themselves tonight. Got Columbus Crew fans as well as Rochester Raging Rhino supporters. I have to say, not too many Rapids fans in attendance, but that's understandable. Journey a little bit too lengthy for a Tuesday night trip. And I'm sure many cheering the team on back in the Denver area. Bravo, a nice little layoff. Here's Jorge Deli Valdez. Perhaps the trump cards for the Rapids. Way by Malai Walton. Schweitzer, it's a dangerous ball. And Deli Valdez, can he capitalize? Paul Bravo! It's a tightly packed Rochester defense. But that was Schweitzer's mistake time.
But also, I think, a mistake by Deli Valdez being too unselfish. He had a chance. He was one-on-one against the defender in the box and elected to try and pass the ball. Right here, Deli Valdez could shoot. He could shoot again here, perhaps through Demons' legs. He gives the ball to Bravo, who has two defenders in front of him. So not a good choice by Deli Valdez. Deli Valdez only had one defender in front of him. Should have tried to shoot around him.
Somehow quickly the Rhinos got defenders back, though. Long ball by Vermees. Of course, the Rhinos are missing several key players. Tommy Tanner would normally patrol the right side of midfield, but he's on the injured list. A couple of long-term casualties as well. Actually, Tanner suspended as well as injured. Could pick up a yellow card in the semi-final. Might not have made it in any case. Sawatsky and Foyer testing out his right boot. Jimmy Glenn and Lennon Steenkamp, meanwhile, tie on the long-term injured list.
Fine players, and they've been a part of this dynasty, you'd almost have to say, for the Rochester Rhinos in the A-League. They just won the regular season title for the second consecutive year.
Way by Balboa following the Sedgwick cross. Delacan jousting with Pauly. There's Restrepo and Tilley. Foyer caught in no man's land for a second. And again, Tilley incurs the wrath of referee Tim Waylands.
But you're right, though. Ian Foyer was in no man's land there. He was caught off his line. Tilley was beating him to the ball. And really the key element here is the recovery by David Vaudreuil to get back in time. And that did look like it may have gone off of Vaudreuil's arm even to go out of bounds. And then it would have been a corner kick and would have pleased Darren Tilley a little bit more than the call that did ensue.
Used to play in China in the first division there to Darren Tilley. Before that, played at his native England, the lower divisions with York City. Vaudreuil steered away by Restrepo. And Walton, with a thud, wins the throw. Ball coming off Ross Pauly.
Well, if you're going to make a run in a knockout competition, you have to have a little bit of luck on your side. And you look at the Rochester Rhinos, how they got here. Twice winning in extra time. And also winning the semifinal in stoppage time with that great goal by Tim Hardy.
Well, that's true. You have to be lucky in a cup competition, especially if you're the underdog side, which the Rhinos surely are, though they're not approaching this the manner of an underdog team. Walton. Pass goes astray off the boot of Nate Delacan, patrolling the right side of midfield. 25 years of age from Seattle. Walton just behind him. Marcelo Balboa. Most of the pressure exerted by Colorado so far. Offside against the charging Kevin Anderson. Have to hand it to the Rhinos. Their defense is very well organized.
They've held fast. They've blocked some shots at the last moment by getting players behind the ball in a hurry, even though it appeared that Deli Valdez had broken through or Paul Bravo had broken it through on a couple of occasions. They were not able to put the finishing touch on it.
Arizona Couldn't keep hold of the ball. Now Pauly. Midfield dynamo. Used to play his college soccer at Creighton. Now Demin. Oh, that was neat. Suspicion of handball. Play continues. Martin. Now Pauly has both Vaudreuil and Anderson to the left. A little nonchalant flick by Deli Valdez.
All right, Craig Demin again, the man at the right place at the right time defensively for the Rochester Rhinos.
This portion of the match brought to you by Motrin.
And you have to know, Derek, that particularly for the Rochester players, this is a big chance for them to showcase their abilities and try and prove, perhaps, that they belong in Major League Soccer. So they're out there to prove a point and to shine individually as well.
Well, that is indeed their goal, we think. We have heard some people say that they're better off staying in the A-League, where they can be a big fish in a smaller pond. Of course, they don't have the restrictions in the A-League that are in place at MLS in terms of salary cap, overseas players. But I think the fans would love to have a stab at MLS in the near future.
Well, in terms of attendance, Rochester averaging more per game than a couple of MLS teams, and that carries a lot of weight too.
Schweitzer's free kick. Back it comes to Biello. That's a snatch at it. Really no more than a half chance for Mauro Biello. 13 minutes left to go in first half play. Battle of wits unfolding in front of us. As Anderson spoons it too high for Sawatsky. National Hockey Night returns to ESPN on Friday, October 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. The Stanley Cup champion Dallas Stars take on the Pittsburgh Penguins from Reunion Arena in the first of over 130 games on ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network. Go.com.
Well, Derek, I'd be the last man to want to disagree with Lamar Hunt, especially this evening. But when he was talking about the average attendance for the Columbus Crew here at the new Columbus Crew Stadium, which Lamar Hunt built, looking right here at the MLS stat sheet, they have averaged this season 17,779. And so it's been well worth it to create a venue of this caliber.
Really is a marvelous theater as well for soccer, this. Just a couple of miles from downtown. Deli Valdez takes up position in the middle. Balboa limping as we speak. Comes out to Sedgwick. You could say so far so good for Rochester. Schweitzer. Delicon. The defender's back quickly, and Martin didn't look terribly sure-footed, did he? Corner kick, the first of the night for the Rochester Raging Rhinos. Let's see what they can conjure up here. 7 or 8 busloads of fans have made the 350-mile journey from the Flower City. So this is, in many ways, a kid to a home game for Rochester. Short corner by Biello. They're trying to get the shot in. Schweitzer, little ambitious. This portion of the match is brought to you by Pepsi.
Well, some people may be wondering where DC United is, why they wouldn't make the final game of the U.S. Open Cup. They did enter the Open Cup competition. The fact is, they were eliminated in a wild game 4-3 by the Charleston Battery in the round of 16. So Giants can fall in these kinds of competitions.
That's the nature of knockout. Demin.
And the Charleston Battery, really a pretty average A-League team. Not the cream of the A-League crop like the Rochester Rhinos, who we're seeing tonight.
Demin, a very accomplished defender, now 28.
The way he carries himself, he reminds me of Julio Cesar, the great Brazilian defender who played in the '86 World Cup and continued to play then in Europe for, was it Dortmund, I believe?
Yes, he was at Dortmund. Now that Tilly might be onto something. Allnuts in the middle, so is Biello. It's Biello. Seemed to whack him in the face. And they're going to get the corner kick out of this, much to the chagrin of Peter Vermees.
Well, again, causing some problems going forward. It's Biello, number 20, Mauro Biello, is the lone shot of the game of this first half for the Rochester Rhinos. And it's him sneaking through midfield at times, forcing some of these corner kicks.
Here is Biello's corner, second of the night for the Raging Rhinos, and Tilly's up. Right by Vaudreuil.
Interesting that coming back to defend on the corners for the high balls against Tilly, because he's so big, was Jorge Valdez with his tremendous jumping ability. At practice yesterday, Valdez was having crosses come in and finishing them with his head. It was awesome. He hits the ball so purely and so hard with his head. I'd like to see some crosses coming in this game, see what he can do with it.
He can be masterful inside the penalty area, the 32-year-old from Panama. But frustration here for the Rapids. McEwen. The Rapids know a thing or two about losing to the Rhinos. That fate befell them back in 1996 at the semi-final stage of this competition, to the tune of 3-0 as well.
This is a different Colorado team. Marcelo Balboa, the only player left from that 96 squad. Not only that, they were the worst team practically in the league in 96, the Colorado Rapids. In 97, they made it to the MLS Cup final. Here in 99, if you go back in the season 5-6 weeks ago, they were the top team in the league. They even had more points than the DC United over in the Eastern Conference.
Way by Malai Walton. The scrappy Biello. And Delicon seemed to bump as he went in for the challenge with Anderson. Free kick is given to the Rochester Raging Rhinos. The cream of the A-League. A-League, of course, part of the USL setup, United Soccer Leagues. Division 2, Division 3, Division 4, Division 5, effectively. In North America, there's Sawatsky.
Well, the point being, there's a lot of soccer in this country now.
Tilly with a foul on Balboa, and that was a surefire yellow card. The Englishman, I think, Ty, was on borrowed time.
Well, Tilly had narrowly escaped a yellow card moments ago. McEwen winning the ball initially, one back there by Yari Allnut, and Balboa trying to shield the ball, puts his body in. Watch him, he puts his body into Tilly, almost looking for the foul. Tilly, out of frustration, seeing that there was no path then to the ball. It may have been a little bit of obstruction, in fact, by Balboa, but really no reason for Tilly to wind up and whack him from behind as he did, and a wise call there, in fact, by the referee to give the yellow card, because, as you mentioned, Tilly was cruising.
Vaudreuil. Sawatsky wound up with a head challenge, couldn't get there. Martin. And here's Vermees. Now Devon has overseas experience, had a spell a couple of years ago playing for East Fife in Scotland.
Going back to Darren Tilly, who just got the yellow card. There's been 8 fouls called against Rochester in this first half. Darren Tilly has all of them.
Good heavens. Back to Onstad. It's 0-0 here. Let us rejoin Kevin Flynn down on the pitch. Kevin.
Hey guys, Tilly is trying to put the body on all the defenders. He's had words with Vermees, Balboa, and McEwen already. He's trying to disrupt their defensive rhythm. Mooch is yelling, don't let him do it. He's trash talking as well.
Here's a chance for Allnut. Trying to lob Foyer, and a clear breakdown in communication in the center of the Colorado defense.
What we're seeing here is Rochester making a concerted effort to build the frustration level. For them, the longer this game stays 0-0, the better it is. Rochester looking for an upset, really the pressure on Colorado to win this game. They're expected to win this game, and they nearly gave one away there as the ball bounced straight over Matt McEwen, and Ian Foyer was not on the same page with it.
Martin. McEwen for Vermees. This is Vaudreuil. His first half ebbing away here in Columbus. Just over 5 minutes to go until we reach the break. Bravo and Vaudreuil. Allnut's there to sweep up. Main priority for the Rhinos, just to keep the score at 0-0. The end of 45 minutes. They have counterattacked fairly effectively.
Well, they nearly snuck one there in late in the half.
McEwen's pass, Deli Valdez, and Restrepo back defending. Well, we hope you'll stay with us for our All-State halftime reports here on ESPN. We'll hear from Major League Soccer Commissioner Don Garber just a couple of weeks into his new job, and we'll bring you the first half highlights as well from this match here in Columbus, the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Final. Vermees. As Danny Valdez flicks it on with a head. Danny Valdez once more, and here's Pauly, breezing in, Ross Pauly! It was so near.
Well, we see here Jorge Valdez drifting into midfield, hoping to draw a few defenders, allowing Ross Pauly then to get forward. This is Dele Valdez on the ball. Ross Pauly sprinting from midfield. He's in behind the defenders. Onstedt cuts the angle and forces Pauly to shoot it just inches wide at the far post. And Dele Valdez thought he had created a goal there for Ross Pauly. He certainly created an outstanding scoring situation for Pauly.
That's about as good as we've seen from the Colorado Rapids. Agonizingly close. Biello. Danny Valdez has been very active indeed. A time-turning provider for Ross Pauly. Tilly is fouled by Vaudreuil. Quickly take it. A little optimistic by Tilly. Delicon with Vaudreuil. Stays at play for Anderson. Biello pokes it out. No scoring. Rochester and Colorado. Only 2 teams left in the 1999 U.S. Open Cup. Pat Ercole patrolling the technical area. 39-year-old Canadian, used to play for the Rochester Lancers in the old North American Soccer League. Bit of tangling between Anderson and Walton. Free kick.
Derek, you mentioned the NASL, the North American Soccer League, and back in those years with some tremendous teams, the New York Cosmos immediately come to mind. Those teams did not enter this U.S. Open Cup competition, so you have to hand it to MLS teams for being a part of it.
Corner kick carved out by Sedgwick for Rochester. That's their third of the match. That's how I think Rochester's confidence is growing.
As I was saying, the longer this remains 0-0, the pressure builds on Colorado, the frustration level builds, and they may leave themselves vulnerable to even a freak occurrence. And so far, Rochester's made the best of every situation getting here to the final.
There's Biello, away by Balboa. Restrepo back there with Hardy. Likes to venture forward occasionally, does Tim Hardy. But layoff, there's Biello. Balboa on the volley, no one upfield to collect it. And Demon made it look simple. Here's Restrepo. Sedgwick came from nowhere. Bill Sedgwick for Rochester, and Foyer had to be alert. This is a great spell from the Rhinos.
Well, Sedgwick getting in behind Tim Martin on that far side. And Colorado right now needs somebody to settle the thing down, and you think of Anders Limpar, who is on the bench for the Colorado Rapids, but in practice in a training session on Sunday, he re-injured his thigh, the quad muscle problem that he's had the last several weeks, and he was in fact hoping to make his return to the Colorado Rapids lineup in this big match, a national championship.
And so for my money, Limpar was perhaps the most impressive MLS player of all in the opening couple of months of the season.
A beautiful player, able to change the pace of the game, able to do the unexpected. And right now, perhaps Colorado a bit too predictable in how they're attacking, almost too much through Jorge Dele Valdez.
I think that's fair comment. Vermees, Pauly, Tim Martin, and Bravo shuffling for space on the volley. Ball was moving away from him. So Much Mardik looks on. It's still 0-0. We will have 1 minute of stoppage time.
Ball coming from the right side. It's Tim Martin getting forward into the attack here as the right back, and Bravo does kind of shake free near the far post. Demon close by. Bravo got a lot of power on that, but he could not keep it down. We saw Glenn Myernick a moment ago on the bench for the Colorado Rapids. He was a rookie in the North American Soccer League for the Dallas Tornado back in the 70s, and the owner of the Dallas Tornado was Lamar Hunt. So the connections are all over the place.
Indeed they are. Glenn Myernick was talking a lot yesterday about how much really would mean to him to have his team win the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. So much respect for Lamar Hunt and his role with the old Dallas Tornado. Now then, a throw to Rochester. We've almost had 1 minute in stoppage time here in the first half. Walton with it. Schweitzer. Running into Anderson. And it's hard to imagine that Ian Foyer and the Rapids will be entirely satisfied with this first half effort. Balboa. Here's Bravo. This is the advantage of stoppage time. It won't end until the attack comes to an end, and it's Deli Valdez. Onstad looked a little bit unsure. Deli Valdez with too much elevation on the shot. And that might be just about all for the first half time.
I think Deli Valdez thought he had cut Onstad off the line, and Onstad, what well-timed run out of midfield here. Ball played in by Bravo to Deli. Look, he is. Onstad's off his line, and Deli Valdez, if he takes power off this and only tries to chip him or loop it over the top of him, there was a lot of net to shoot at because Onstad was a good 7-8 yards.
It's halftime in Columbus. A blank scoreboard here in the U.S. Open Cup Final for 1999. Rochester 0, Colorado 0. The A-League against Major League Soccer. Night has descended on Columbus, Ohio. This is the venue for the 1999 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Final. And the Colorado Rapids preparing to kick off the second half. 0-0 the score. They had the bulk of the possession in the first half. Created more chances than did the Rochester Raging Rhinos. But 0-0 it is. We'll continue to update you on the baseball situation as we move along tonight. All eyes focused on Sammy Sosa, tracking his every at-bat. Nate Dalicon on the right. This portion of our game is brought to you by Chevy. David Vaudrell with the throw. Misses out McEwen. Able to get a foot to it in any case. Greg Demmin, welcome. Return to the defense for him. And now Tilly. Intelligent looking ball. And just away in the nick of time by Vermees. Was fed in by Dalicon with Biello in the center tie.
Dalicon showing some good speed on that right flank, and Peter Vermees backing up Marcelo Balboa. They're perfectly positioned with Vermees, and this is a guy that most of his career until the last 3-4 years was an out-and-out forward. He was not a back player or a defensive player, but good defensive positioning there by Peter Vermees.
Restrepo. Away on the volley by Vaudrell. Here's Tilly on the left. And harmlessly through, maybe. Well, Foyer made it a bit of an adventure. To scamper very quickly off his line. Yari Allnut, number 10 there. Central midfield operator for the Rochester Raging Rhinos. Kevin Anderson. Stalemate here in Columbus. Remember, if it's all even after 90 minutes, we'll go to extra time. 15 minutes per period with the golden goal rule in effect. Onstad. He's played 17 times for the Canadian national team. Tilly trying to get to the ball ahead of Balboa. Martin. Played in one very good ball in the first half from the right. Was that over the touchline? Very close. Hardy. Here's Allnuts. I think would be an MLS player, but for the fact that most MLS teams like to have international players filling the central role in midfield. Just as I said that, he played his worst ball of the night.
I was going to talk about Allnut, a teammate in '92 on the Olympic team with Kobe Jones, Joe Max Moore, Alexi Lalas. This is a guy who was a part of that whole group of players, most of who did move on into the U.S. national team, and he just barely missed that cut.
Damon was down just for a second. He's limping off toward the touchline. Greg Damon has had to battle against a series of injuries over the last couple of years. First of all, his knee, more recently his hamstring. This portion of the game is brought to you by Budweiser. You heard Craig Rand, the trainer, ask the question of Damon, how bad?
Well, they seem to be checking out his knee as opposed to the hamstring, which was a condition that he had coming into this game.
Deli Valdez almost got there. He is still very much the key man for this Colorado side.
9 goals and 6 assists in MLS action. A couple of critical goals in the U.S. Open Cup semifinal in the victory over the Charleston Battery, another A-League squad. Deli Valdez with the first and third goals of the evening. All 3 goals scored in the second half by Colorado over Charleston in the semi.
Balboa against Tilly. Bielo now starting to string the passes together. Rochester. Sawatsky played in the A-League last year for the Hershey Wildcats. A little dummy by Deli Valdez. And it's Pauly. The flag is up. As Bravo lets fly. The flag was up in good time.
Well, some pretty subtle stuff there in the attack by Colorado, particularly Deli Valdez. The dummy run, letting the ball play through into Ross Pauly. There it is. He lets it go through his legs. Ross Pauly into the clear. Is pulled a little bit by Yari Allnut, but then Bravo was in behind by a couple of steps when the ball was played to him by Ross Pauly, and a good call on the offside.
The news from down on the pitch concerning Craig Denham is that it is a re-aggravation of the hamstring injury. And it was always a gamble, Ty, wasn't it? Fielding Denham, given that he's been out since the 15th of August.
Well, a big gamble right now. Actually, Rochester, for the time being, playing a man down. They've not substituted for Denham as of yet as they try to determine whether he can really go.
They're getting Mike Kerms ready in case it is the end of the night for Craig Denham. This is Allnut. Anderson. Free kick. Pushing and shoving. McEwen getting involved.
Well, that's no surprise either. McEwen, second in MLS in fouls. Second only to the babyface assassin, Jeff Onger of DC United.
Well, this is unfortunate, Ty, for Rochester as we look at Allnut. Kerms will have to come into the game to replace the defensive stalwarts Craig Denham. Mike Kerms, who spent a couple of years in the German lower divisions with FSV Salzburg, actually got a job as an international sales and marketing manager with a truck company while he played for Salzburg. Here's Hardy. And interestingly, Schweitzer is back in the center of defense now.
This is really how Rochester has played the last 8 games leading up to this one, because Devons had been out with that same injury.
So Kerms is in midfield, Schweitzer's at the back, away by Allnut, and here's Bielo. Always been a great admirer of Bielo's skills.
Very smooth and fluid on the ball, as we see here.
Former Montreal Impact player, hails from Montreal, Quebec. And Kerms, first piece of action for him. Balboa goes across to meet him. Mike Kerms actually thought about giving up. At least the Rhinos management thought at one point that he might want to give up the game of football.
Watch this. He has the flip throw in. It's not terribly accurate. They call it a scud, but he gets distance on it.
Well, there is the scud. And it was remarkably effective, wasn't it?
That found Matt McEwen's 6'2" forehead. But the fact is, it's a dangerous maneuver to do a flip throw. And Kerms, in fact, puts out the caveat, don't try this, kids at home.
No.
One of the lawsuits, he said, from any parents.
Wayward ball by Hardy. Let's take a look at this acrobatic feat again.
Okay. Chiropractor's got to love this.
Ouch.
Practically off of his head, but he does get the velocity and distance on the throw, and it can be a weapon offensively.
Bielo. Free kick against Tim Martin. Slotting in very nicely at right fullback. Jason Bent has been injured for a few weeks. He is on the bench. Bent, Canadian international. Started the season playing as a fullback. Whacking off the face of Martin. And it will be a throw for Hardy.
Well, the main players, the main weapons on the bench for Colorado, Woldy Harris, who could run up front and try and spark more offense. Very imposing player physically and a good player around the goal, Woldy Harris. You also might see Joey Giamarino after having battled some injuries. He may be back into the lineup for Colorado. Good flank player, and that we heard Mooch Myronek talk about that when he talked to Kevin Flynn right at the end of the first half. They want to vary their attack a little bit more. They want to use the flanks more and get in behind Rochester. But so far, most of the attacks have still been up the center through Ross Pauly and Deli Valdez.
Here's Delicon for the Rhinos, representing the A-League. The top tier in the USL structure, United Soccer Leagues. Kerms on the right. Taking on Vaudreuil and Foyer. Usually very confident dealing with cross balls. He is an American goalkeeper, but he's extremely English in style.
Being 6'6" certainly helps.
Restrepo.
So you're saying that Ian Foyer's not a vampire goalkeeper. That's what they call a vampire goalkeeper, one who's afraid of crosses.
Aha. He would not fall in that category, as this replay bears out.
Again, down the right side, Rochester having some success getting balls in, and this one's right at the top of the 6, so a good reaction, in fact, by Ian Foyer.
Deli Valdez, bit of foul play inside the penalty area, much to his horror. I wonder what Glenn Marnick is thinking at this stage. He's done a remarkable job.
Let's lift it, come on!
Question of lifting it. Well, they would love to lift the level of performance.
Or lift the cup at the end of the game.
Is that what he was alluding to, do you think? Here's Vaudreuil. Handed away by Restrepo.
Nice bump there, in fact, by the defender Restrepo on Paul Bravo.
Free kick is given against Matt McEwen. Sedgwick. It's almost a hospital ball. Bill Sedgwick actually grew up in the Denver area. Hails from Wheat Ridge, Colorado. Quickly taken throw by Pauly. The man from Panama, Deli Valdez. Schweitzer. Extremely resilient at the back. Remember in his younger days, Scott Schweitzer was talked about as a potential U.S. national team player. Never really developed to that level. A strong player at the back for Rochester. Here's another strong player, Biello. Closed down by Vermees. Mauro Biello. Little flick on by Tilly. Sedgwick now. 11 minutes into the second half. And a wasted opportunity.
Scott Schweitzer, who helped get Rochester here with some offense, a tying goal in the semifinal there. Defending very intelligently, good technique, getting his body in on Deli Valdez to contain him, and that's not easy. And Schweitzer, not that big of a guy, but he plays strong when he comes in for a ball in that type of situation, and it shows. But Derek, what we're seeing here is something that Colorado has to look out for. They're pushing a few more players forward. They're getting a little edgy. Glenn Marnick, their coach, wants them to lift it. That means they're risking a little bit more, and we've seen Rochester the last couple of possessions find more space going the other way.
Joey DiGiamarino is about to come into the game for the Colorado Rapids. As he does that, let us remind you that Sports Century continues counting down the 50 greatest athletes of the past century with number 20, Ty Cobb. Not Ty Kia, but Ty Cobb. Tune into ESPN Friday, September 17th at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 Pacific. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network. Go.com.
I'm actually named after Ty Cobb. My birthday is the day after Ty Cobb's birthday. He was December 18th. I'm the now 19th.
There you go. And you see confirmation of the switch. Joey DiGiamarino, promising young left-sided midfielder, in for Kevin Anderson. Now Tilly, a bit of freedom. And belatedly, the flag is raised by Nathan Clement, the far side referee's assistant. Tireless worker, this man, Darren Tilly. Managed 21 goals in 1998 in the A-League for the Rhinos. Only 5 in 99. He's been heavily marked. Here's DiGiamarino. Way by Restrepo. He's had a strong game at the back. Biello gets away from Balboa. Like the look of Mauro Biello. Hold on. Confronted by McEwen, and he's penalized. Now that this could be intriguing. McEwen is furious at the decision.
Well, there could have been just a bit of play acting by Yari Allnett, but McEwen's reputation precedes him in situations like this, and there is a nudge. and certainly all that makes it look like a lot more than it really was. But the nudge was there and the call is made.
So a free kick it is to Rochester, just outside the penalty area. Ross Pauley went down, meanwhile, at the other end. They're still attending to him, and the referee, Tim Whalen, is walking all the way over towards Pauley. The tension mounts here in Columbus, Ohio. We'll be going for a Sammy Sosa update in just a moment. So stay tuned to us here on ESPN. Doesn't look terribly healthy, does it, for Pauley? This game getting ever more physical. Marnik looks on. Menacing looking free kick, it's all nuts. And Biello on the volley. The chance goes a-begging for one of the shining lights in this game.
Well, Mauro Biello has picked it up. He's lifted his game here in the second half, and he's found more space going forward as he tries to support Darren Tilley. Remember, Darren Tilley is the lone forward for Rochester. This ball double flicked, then over to the back post. A wise decision, in fact. A lot of times you try and score a head ball from that distance. It's a very easy play for the goalkeeper. When you play it back post, the goalkeeper's a bit out of position. And Biello, very good on the dribble.
It's time for us to get a baseball update. Let us send it back to Bill Pito in our Baseball Tonight studios.
Good thing they double teamed Deli Valdez around.
Welcome back to Columbus. Flashing drive. Just wide as Joey DiGiamarino tried to go forward, the substitute. We're here in Columbus for the 1999 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Final. The Rochester Raging Rhinos against the Colorado Rapids. Rochester representing the A-League, the Rapids MLS. Derek Ray, Ty Keogh, Kevin Flynn with you here on ESPN. This segment of the game is brought to you by Allstate.
And perhaps a game-changing substitution. Joey D.G. Marino, we saw him as a part of that last attack for Colorado. Only 22, but he can make a difference.
Still 0-0. Darren Tilley, I can tell you, has left the game. And in has come Deadly Doug Miller, as he's known in Rochester. Real folk hero up there. See whether he can change the course of events. Positive way for Rochester. Injuries galore in this game now. Players hitting the grass left, right, and center. Denny Valdez, the latest casualty.
Well, Doug Miller, number 19 for Rochester, the new substitute, the A-League top scorer and MVP in '97. And a player, when you talk about the A-League, some of these guys actually make more money in the A-League than they could in Major League Soccer.
Especially when you factor in their winter earnings indoors. MLS players not afforded that option. Walton, and he was barged by David Vaudreuil. Doug Miller, now 29. Scored 5 goals in this cup competition in his career and managed a startling 23 in the A-League in 1997.
6 goals and 4 assists this season for the Rochester Rhinos, and it's been used off the bench more and more this season.
This portion of the game is presented by Very Fine. No comment. 20 minutes into the second half. Still 0-0. Balboa.
Who told him there was a game tonight?
Zawadzki. This is Sedgwick for Rochester. The chipping away here at Colorado in a way that could be troublesome for the Rapids. Sedgwick. Miller supporting. Still Bill Sedgwick. And there's Doug Miller. Will he be deadly here? Oh, yes! Deadly Doug lives up to his name. It would have to be said, though, a dreadful mistake by Foyer.
Well, things liven up here, and the pressure is really on Colorado now, but a great ball from the corner in a very poor angle. And what you see here is a goalkeeper, Ian Foyer, getting beaten at the near post, and that is unforgivable, particularly in a game of this stature. But a tremendous ball out of the corner by Bill Sedgwick, and the finish there. He got him leaning the wrong way. Ian Foyer goes the wrong way, and Doug Miller has the goal.
Joy for the Rhinos. And now this has turned very dramatic indeed. Doug Miller, midway through the second half, just a few minutes after coming off the bench to replace the tiring Darren Tilley, to 1-0 to Rochester. Zawadzki for Colorado. The choruses of joy from the Rochester fans echoing around Columbus Crew Stadium. And this is what the cup is all about. Sedgwick and Biello. Now Sedgwick to the left. Hardy for Rochester. Martin. Vermees. Off the head of a patched up Ross Polly. They're at it again. Delicon. Nate Delicon! Little too straight to trouble Foyer. But they're going at Colorado now with all guns blazing.
Well, not a great save, but a very good one, in particular because it bounced right in front of him and he gave no rebound, and there was a Rochester player right there.
Denny Valdez is offside. Just a fraction offside. Denny Valdez looking over at Craig Lowry, the near side referee's assistant.
Another great chance for Rochester here. Zawadzki, a giveaway, deadly here. Delicon has space. He goes to bend this ball around the defender. Vermees using him as a screen. In fact, Foyer saw it a little bit late. That little hop right out in front of him. Look at Doug Miller right there looking for any sort of loose ball that might have shook free.
Since MLS began in 1996, Major League Soccer teams have always won the U.S. Open Cup. 96, 97, and 98. D.C., Dallas, and Chicago. But could it be that 1999 will be the year for the Rochester Raging Rhinos? A long way to go yet.
Well, it certainly would be a feather in the cap of the USL and the A-League.
Ross Pauly. And there's going to be a booking here for Delicon. Nate Delicon impeding Pauly's progress. There you can see the tape on the nose of Ross Pauly. Pauly dispossessed with ease by Delicon. He let Schweitzer take over. Doug Miller's to the right. Doug Miller again. Will he have a go? Well, the better option might have been to feed Biello or Onat.
Mauro Biello making a very strong run straight into the heart of the Colorado defense. And Miller, being an out-and-out goal scorer, doesn't even look at him. He's going to try and put this one away. You see Biello making the central run near the top of the box. But Miller had one thing in mind, to double his goal total on the night.
Jorge Deli Valdez. Tim Hardy wouldn't yield an inch. Deli Valdez trying to turn it back in. And Bravo! Real scramble. What a save by Onstad. Oh, superb goalkeeping by the Canadian.
Things are only going to get wilder and crazier here. And Onset, you're right, it was a point-blank chance there by Bravo after some good work by Deli Valdez to win the ball.
Ian Foyer.
Foyer giving up that goal to Doug Miller. He's 6'6". He's bound to have some difficulties with those lower shots, and that's what beat him at the near post.
Walton getting it out of the danger area with less than 20 minutes to go. Rochester 1, Colorado 0. The team from the A-League leading the side from Major League Soccer. The upset is a real possibility now.
Giant killing anyone?
Heard that term somewhere before tonight, have we not? But it is what cup competitions are all about, whether it's the FA Cup in England, the Scottish Cup in Scotland, the two oldest ones. This, of course, is no slouch in that regard either. Dates back to 1914. They're playing for the Dewar Trophy. Here's a chance for Vaudreuil, and Bravo couldn't get there. Tidy goalkeeping again by Pat Onstad.
Good play out of midfield there by DG Marino to get the ball into Vaudreuil. This is the chance for Colorado to tie the game. Deli Valdez wins the ball in the box, gets it across front. Good hustle by Pauly, and Bravo on his left foot fails to find the corner. He almost jammed it underneath Onset, but the reactions of Onset, he got down extremely quickly, and that is something that at the other end Ian Foyer couldn't do on Miller's shot at the near post.
Free kick has been given to the Colorado Rapids, with Bravo taking the tumble.
Derek, a long and illustrious history, as you mentioned, going back to 1914. Bethlehem Steel won 5 of these championships back 1915 through 1919 and 1926. Billy Gonzalez, many people consider him the best player all time in the United States, was on 8 championships teams.
Onstad has it again. And what a coup this would be, not only for the A-League, but the entire United Soccer League. With more on that, here's Kevin Flynn. Kevin.
I'm with the commissioner of the USL, a very happy man, Francisco Marcos. Francisco, your thoughts?
Well, I never expect to win these games, but I'm never surprised when we do. So far, we have won 5 times this season in the Open Cup against MLS. And so far, so good. It looks like David has hit Goliath another time.
Well, you're producing some good players all across the country.
Well, we really have game in, game out. I'm not kidding myself about the quality or the depth of the A-League in comparison to MLS. But as every soccer fan knows, in cup soccer, on a given day, anything can happen. And right now, for 72 minutes, it's been proven that way again.
Now, what will happen if a lot of these players catch the eye of some MLS clubs? Will it be good for you, or do you think it'll hurt your teams?
They go. That's the agreement we have with MLS. If the player wants to go, they go. The more players we lose, the more players we gain, because the more players will have an opportunity to get in with us. The same is true with Rochester. If Rochester goes to the MLS, they not only go with my blessing, we will just use them as a trumpeting card that we can produce an MLS quality franchise as well, and we'll just go replace Rochester with somebody else.
Product of your success. Thank you, Francisco. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Kevin Flynn. Still 1-0 to Rochester. David has hit Goliath. Only time will tell whether Goliath will lay down and dieth.
Well, I talk about players that have been developed by the USL, by the A-League, and even going back to '97 when the Division III US ISL team, the San Francisco Bay Seals, made a run in this same competition. C.J. Brown made a mark, moved up to the Chicago Fire, and became a U.S. national team player.
Easy beat for Onstad, picking the ball off the head of Jorge Deli Valdez. Marquise White, who's on the bench for the Colorado Rapids, also played on that San Francisco Bay Seals team.
He scored some of those giant killing goals for the Seals in '97, made a name for himself, got himself into MLS. Henry Gutierrez played with the Rochester Rhinos and the Seattle Sounders in the A-League before going to the Miami Fusion, where now he's been called into the national team.
Miller was pushing Vermees, and the free kick was taken too quickly by McEwen for Tim Whalen's liking. That's a fired-up Matt McEwen, isn't it?
It's any game, whether it's a five-a-side in the park, that's the way Matt McEwen plays. Vermees here just nudged by Miller from behind.
Doug Miller on the break again, and it's Biello. A little bit off target by Miller. Mike Kerms. Walton. Jason Bent is preparing to come in for the Colorado Rapids. Flamboyant Canadian international. Restrepo succeeded in picking out his man, Miller. Hardy. Cantering toward the left is Olnats. It's strong defending by Peter Vermees. But the switch is about to be made here, Ty. Jason Bent coming to the match for the Colorado Rapids, a very technical attacking fullback.
He's going to play midfield here, though.
Sawatsky will depart. And if truth be told, he has not had a very effective game.
Sawatsky, a scrapper, a battler, as you mentioned, good speed. But right now with Jason Bent, more experience. He's an international player for Canada. And Glenn Marnick talked about attacking down the flanks. Now he's got D.G. Marino, his first sub, out on the left flank. And he's got Jason Bent on the right side, trying to get around the Rochester defense to find the tying goal.
That was an injury doubt coming into play because of a left ankle sprain. Here's Martin. Veering in field for once. Bent. Pauly. Now Tim Martin. They look for the corner kick. They will get it. Came off the head of Scott Schweitzer. Time is of the essence for the Colorado Rapids. They trail by 1-0 to the Rochester Raging Rhinos. Ross Pauly's corner. DJ Marino. David Vaudreuil. The two players, Hardy and Olnats, getting in each other's way. Vermees has joined the attack. No stranger to that position, of course. And now, chasing hard, Doug Miller. Vaudreuil has the situation under control. This portion of the match is brought to you by Motrin. What drama here in Columbus tonight. Deli Valdez for the Colorado Rapids, who lost to Rochester in 1996. The semifinal stage by 3-0. Here it's 1-0. And the A-League team going for more. Olnats. Sedgwick. Not the best ball we've ever seen from Bill Sedgwick. Martin across the defense to Vermees.
But Sedgwick provided the assist. The ball from the corner for Doug Miller's goal, the lone goal of this match.
Here's a factoid for you, Ty. The Rhinos are 7-0 where they score first in U.S. Open Cup play. Ross Pauly. Not that that necessarily means anything with 12 minutes left to go. Interesting nonetheless. But the Rapids desperate to bounce back here. Vaudreuil. Deli Valdez. Fancy footwork from the Panamanian, but he's robbed of the ball. Every Rochester touch being cheered by this enthusiastic crowd. It's Miller, and he was taken out by Tim Martin. This will be a card for Martin. A yellow one.
Well, here's the key also for Rochester. Every Rochester attack gets the ball further away from their goal as they defend this league. Martin did tug on the shirt of Doug Miller, and it was a deliberate foul, so he receives the yellow card. Doug Miller causing problems. But the fact is, you don't want to go into a bunker. You don't want to defend this early in the match and try and protect just a one-goal lead. You have to get into the attack periodically to keep the opposition honest. If you let Colorado attack for the entire last 11 minutes of the match, they're going to get a goal.
Scott Schweitzer, the free kick for Rochester. Trying to place it in. Referee wasn't satisfied. Flag went up very quickly. This portion of the match here on ESPN is brought to you by Pepsi. Just over 10 minutes left. We will have stoppage time, of course. International conventions applying. The Rapids at this stage might settle for a chance to kill off Rochester in extra time.
Well, what you're going to see now is Marcelo Balboa get more into the attack. Even you saw Peter Vermees a moment ago. And those two guys, they're central defenders tonight, but really they're still among the all-time leaders in goals scored for the U.S. national team.
Volley did well. Here's McEwen, and width provided by Martin. They're lining up in the middle, but look at that tightly packed Rochester defense. All the yellow shirts behind the ball. Who can blame them at this stage? Came off Sedgwick. Tim Whalen, the referee, giving the throw to the Colorado Rapids. Actually, a free kick in the end. There's a substitution in the offing. We'll tell you about that in just a moment. Wally Harris, the Jamaican, getting ready to come in. A reminder to join us for baseball tonight at 10:30 Eastern here on ESPN. Among the questions, will the Yankees break out of their slump? And could Sammy Sosa make history? Find out at 10:30 Eastern and midnight Eastern with Bill Pito. Harris is in. Vermees with a free kick.
And Vermees tried to find Harris in the center of the box there.
Harris has replaced Martin, so this is a clear indication of Glenn Mardick's intentions time.
Well, you take off your right back and you put in a center forward. Obviously a substitution for offense.
Onstad storming off his line, and he was fouled by Balboa. The veteran U.S. international pleading his case. Well, based on what we've seen, Ty, it's no wonder that Onstad is attracting the attention of European teams.
And he's performed very well for the Canadian national team as well. And with the Rochester Rhinos, he's been dominant as they've again won the regular season title in the A-League.
And already taking care of business against Lehigh Valley in the first round of the playoffs. Their next opponents will be Pittsburgh.
Well, Colorado has a big opponent in the LA Galaxy. Both of those teams battling for top spot in the Western Conference of MLS. That's this Saturday night. Colorado against LA.
And that is another feature, of course, of the World Game. Team is playing in different tournaments at the same time. Way by Vermees. Well, there was a preposterous article in one of the Rochester papers this morning suggesting that this event was somehow devalued simply because it didn't take place after the league playoffs. But that is soccer. You have different competitions running at the same time. I think Manchester United would take offense if they thought that, or were told that the Champions League was somehow devalued because they had a league game to come 4 days later.
How else would they win the treble?
Exactly. Well said. This portion of the match is brought to you by Allstate. Carlos Zavala will come into the game for Dalicon. Zavala, his father played for the Mexican national team. Himself had a stint with Toluca a few years ago. The Mexican First Division. Now that Pauly. Virtually everybody behind the ball for Rochester. DJ Marino. Sedgwick got his head to it.
Perhaps more critically, Colorado playing with only one man back in Peter Vermees.
There's McEwen, and Onstad hesitated. Almost paid the price. It's desperate defensive work here from the Rhinos, and Hardy will win the goal kick. 7 minutes left to go. Kevin Flynn.
Well, Dalicon went out with a pulled muscle, or they're not quite sure. It could be just the guys are starting to cramp up now. This is late in the game. They're running hard. Rochester was defending hard. They're concerned about that. Look for some more of that happening.
Rochester's been under a lot of pressure here, and they've defended a lot in this game, but now they are finding space the other way.
Doug Miller scored the only goal this game so far. Here he is again, and Foyer! Oh, atoning for the earlier blunder, and Miller knows that wasn't a bad shot at all. Magnificent from Foyer.
Mark this save at home, because this would have been lights out for the Colorado Rapids, and you would have seen Rochester raising the trophy, but it remains a one-goal game because of a stunning save by Ian Foyer.
Doug Miller denied by Foyer. Savala will take the corner kick. 30 years of age now. Play at the back or midfield. Balboa, the clearing header. 5 minutes to go. Bravo laying it off to Harris. Here's Hardy. Schweitzer from the back. Trickles out of play. Foyer coming out to meet Vermees. The Colorado Rapids without a major honor in their almost 4-year history. They thought that this was their best chance. It's very hard to contradict that feeling before a ball was kicked tonight. But so far, becoming a cropper against a lively, energetic Rochester Raging Rhinos team, who came in with a plan to defend in depth in the first half, wait for the opportunities in the second. Doug Miller doing the damage. Pauly comes out to McEwen. There's Walton. Trying to start an attack himself.
Well, as we see Colorado desperately here trying not to score at one. If that would happen at the end of regulation, a tie score means extra time. Would be golden goal situation.
Sedgwick, a no-nonsense clearance. Vermees trying to foil Miller. Bit of gamesmanship there by Darren Tilley on the bench. He's throwing the ball away. Pat Ercoli now trying to put it back toward the touchline. This portion of the match is brought to you by Very Fine.
Well, you might have seen some time added on there. The gamesmanship by Rochester could backfire. The referee at his discretion can add time on.
Should see a healthy chunk of stoppage time in the second half.
Because of the substitutions, because of the goal. A couple of injuries as well.
Very important contribution tonight from Pat Onstad in goal. Let's take a look at our all-state good hands save of the day.
And this was just after the goal by Rochester. Would have been a tying goal. Ross Pauly gets it to Paul Bravo. Onset so quick to react, to get down and keep it out. And it all started with a steal in the box by Deli Valdez.
Back with the live play. 3 minutes left. Plus stoppage time. And I trust Major League Soccer is taking note how effectively stoppage time can work. Means that the referee can use his discretion to make sure that the whistle is not blown at a time that would work against the team attacking. Glenn Mardick looking a little bit anxious. Slipping away from the Rapids now time. Vermees had nowhere to go.
Colorado again missing Anders Limpar, who could have sparked perhaps more well-conceived attacks out of midfield for Colorado. But look at Rochester. They're missing 3 outstanding players. Tom Tanner, Jimmy Glenn, and Leonard Steenkamp. Tanner out because of yellow cards accumulated in the lead-up games in this knockout competition.
Long ball by McEwen. Onstad will take all the time in the world. So let us take a look at our story tonight. Budweiser game summary. Doug Miller playing the super sub role to perfection. He replaced Darren Tilley. Only been on the field for about 4 minutes. And then he pounced, albeit with considerable help from Ian Foyer. And that is the scene over on the far side of this Columbus Crew Stadium. The Rhinos flags being waved proudly. They're just 90 seconds away from victory, plus injury time, of course. And there might be a fair amount of that. Vermees for Colorado. Gripping tension here in Columbus. Wally Harris.
Well, based on what Rochester has managed to do in this competition on the field, you can hardly say that they are not capable of playing in MLS. Now, there's other considerations, obviously financial as well as stadium issues, which Don Garber talked about at halftime about whether Rochester could move into the MLS ranks.
We will have 3 minutes of stoppage time. For the moment, though, the Rapids are being forced back on their heels. There's the magic number, 3. Brian Dorling, the 4th official, doing the honors. And the Rhinos sensibly here, in no hurry. Savala.
Well, Rochester made it very clear before this game that they counted this as more important even than winning the A-League championship this season.
Mike Kerms. Big hemmed in by Bent. It's Savala. Thought he might play for the corner kick then, but the chance is on. Allnut can finish it here, and he does! Yuri Allnut! A storybook finish to this cup final. The Rhinos truly are all the rage.
Well, an interesting gamble by Peter Vermees. He could have blocked this cross. Instead, it comes all the way over to Yuri Allnut. Ian Foyer has really no choice but to come out and try and cut the angle. And Allnut does the right thing, keeping it down low. A very tall goalkeeper, it's hard for them to get down quickly. But when the ball was in the corner, when it was crossed, Peter Vermees could have blocked it. He was hoping that the cross would be an easy one for Foyer to grab and perhaps start a counterattack. He was just gambling because of the situation.
It's all or nothing now for the Rapids. McEwen, the snapshots. Instructions coming from Pat Ercole. Yuri Allnut, right at the death. Making it 2-0. Foyer looking more and more like a defeated goalkeeper. The fairy tale is complete.
Yuri Allnut, 5 appearances for the U.S. men's national team in '93 and '94. He's done quite well in the A-League.
Can only imagine what is going on up in Rochester at the moment. Several dances of delight, I'm sure, being performed. Several thousand, that would be, even as we speak. DJ Marino will have a go. And Deli Valdez and Bravo.
It's been the story of the night for the Colorado Rapids. Just off by a step or two on some of their touches and some of their attacks and combinations. Peter Vermees could probably block this cross. He gets out of the way on purpose because he didn't want to give up a corner kick, which would have killed more of the clock. Instead, he let it go in.
What a save by Onstad, denying Bent. Pat Onstad has been absolutely magnificent tonight. Here he is again. Every catch being cheered enthusiastically now. Frank O'Doy there, the assistant coach to Pat Ercole. They're lapping this up. And I think it's fair to say that U.S. soccer fans tonight have experienced the magic of the cup.
It's the nature of a knockout competition. Anyone can come through it. It's open to all comers in the United States. Both amateur and professional teams can enter this competition. And here an A-League team has defeated MLS. MLS, much bigger player budgets overall.
Hear the cry of, "We won the cup." Not officially yet. A marvelous sight. 8 busloads of Rochester fans made the grueling 6.5-hour journey here to Columbus, Ohio. And it was well worth the trip. Doug Miller failing in his bid to keep it in. There it is! The Rochester Raging Rhinos have won the 1999 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup.
U.S. Open Cup Championship Trophy.
A storybook finish for the Rochester Raging Rhinos, and a very difficult pill to swallow for the Colorado Rapids and also all of Major League Soccer. Here's a team not considered to be on the same level to an MLS team, able to steal an Open Cup championship.
The Giant has been slain. Rhinos 2, Rapids 0. The final score here in Columbus.